So hey y'all, thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Talking Spit. I have my big sister. I love this woman to death. She's the reason why I went to North High School, and she knows that. I've told her this 1,000 times, that my inspiration on the basketball court was her. She doesn't really need an introduction, but I allow her to introduce herself. Let the people know who you are.
Hey guys, it's Tamara Moore. I'm trying not to use my radio voice because we were just talking about that. But Tamara Moore, Minneapolis native, Minneapolis North High School alumni, and just trying to, be successful here at Mesabi Range.
Mesabi Range. We're going to talk a little bit more about Mesabi a little bit later.
Yeah.
If y'all don't know, I'm going to have highlights before this video of T-Moore, and then after this video. If you don't know who Tamara Moore is, you've been living under a rock. Especially if you're from Minnesota, there's no way you do not know who she is. And so her game and all her accolades speak for themselves. Lady she's just too much. And she still be balling now. That's the crazy part.
I be trying. It's getting harder now, sis. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's getting harder, but I still be trying.
Somebody asked me the other day, like, Bree, you ever come hoop with us? I said, the way this knee is set up, absolutely not. Okay, I'm tired. I would shoot some threes. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. If y'all don't want me to play no defense, I always play D because that's what I love. But listen here, if it's some shooting some threes and just half court, let's do it.
That's it. Half court. I'm the best 5-on-5 half court person ever.
What? Listen, I tell you all the time. 5-on-5 half court is my friend. If I ever get full court again, I'm telling y'all, it's gonna be on.
Oh, it's on and popping. I'm not gonna ever be there, but she will though. I always wondered, and I was always interested, what inspired you to pick up a basketball?
Okay. So the biggest thing about when it comes to basketball, most kids know, kids hate chores. So like the biggest thing for me was like at the time, basketball wasn't like really a big thing for girls. So it's like, okay, what can I do to not have to do chores? So I would go to the Boys and Girls Club a lot, Boys and Girls Club of Twin Cities on North Minneapolis side, go to the Broadway, YMCA, Farview, and I would just stay there for hours just to avoid doing chores. That's the first reason why. The biggest thing for me was like, it's something that was really enjoying, but that was, to be honest, that was the first reason why I didn't want to, do chores and things like that. But I think on the inspirational side, I think it's something that I felt like I could be successful at. I was weak as heck when I first started playing basketball. I'm going to tell y'all now, don't think y'all know what Tamara Moore became, but when I tell you I was so terrible when I first started working at Boys and Girls Club, until my first coach found me, Clarence Sellers and his wife, Jam Taylor. They actually found me at the Boys and Girls Club, and they just worked with me. They worked with me. My brother Jeff worked with me, and it just became something that was something I got better and better at. But the flat answer, I didn't want to do chores, so what can I do to get out the house? And basketball was it.
Basketball was it. So you telling me, so when you said that you was weak, how old were you when you first started playing basketball? Because I can't imagine you not being good at all.
Yes. Okay, so the first time I ever picked up a basketball, I was in 4th grade. I was 10. And there was like a little side basket on the garage. And I used to like shoot at that. And I used to be terrible, but I was always taller than everybody else. Y'all know the pictures, like when you be in school and they be like, okay, we're going to take the all class picture and you be the first person in the middle and then you in the back and everybody else fan out from the side. So I was always the tallest, but I didn't have my coordination down yet. So 4th grade, 10 years old, started like just shooting at the side of the basket. And then 5th, 6th, and 7th grade, I started going and being more involved. But then by 7th grade, that's when I started really going to the Boys and Girls Club to start really getting better. But 4th grade, what? No baskets. Defense was always on point, but you wasn't getting no buckets out of me in 4th grade.
So when you were growing up, who was your favorite basketball player? Who was like that person for you?
Okay, so most people, when I first started playing, most people don't know, like, I love the Chicago. I mean, this is going to be cliche, of course, but I love the Chicago Bulls. Like, but Michael Jordan wasn't my favorite player. BJ Armstrong was my favorite player. Don't know why. He was my favorite player. Like, it was just weird, but I would go get a notebook. And every time they had a game, I would take the notebook. I would draw up my little stat sheet. I would make a line for points, make a line for rebounds, make a line for assists, and a line for like blocks or whatever. And then I would do my stats like I was the stat keeper. So that's how I kind of like honed my skills as far as like learning the game, because I would actually write it down. But Michael Jordan wasn't my favorite. BJ Armstrong was my favorite player on the team. I don't know if I had a crush on him in 4th grade or what. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, but it was BJ Armstrong for me. But the whole Bulls organization and the winning that you guys got to see on The Last Dance is what I got to chronicle as a 5th, 6th, and 7th grader, just doing my little notes.
You will say stats of NBA games. That's great. See that? Look, I think a lot of athletes don't understand the level of dedication. You couldn't just go on the computer and look up their stats. You would find it in the paper like the next day, but you had to physically either watch the game and think about their stats. But there ain't no going on Google. Trust me.
There was no way to research it other than to do it. But I felt like that was like me kind of like honing in on my not even just my playing skills, but my ambition and my passion about wanting to be a coach one day. And it's like I said, that might sound crazy to some people, but this is really legitly how I started building my IQ of being able to watch plays. I even used to take another page and draw plays that I would see the team, do, and I write them down and see how I could, create different little moves off of them. So like once I got to high school, it was like, okay, coach, I bet you I can show you this or that. Just because that's what I did even when I first started.
It was second nature. I get it 100%.
Yeah.
So now knowing that, now y'all can understand why she became so successful. You talking about a 4th grader taking stats at a game? That's unheard of. Like that's not normal. I was outside kicking it, chasing down Mario the ice cream man truck to get some ice cream.
I was doing that too. I tell people all the time, like, we're in a different generation now where, like, for our generation, it was like parents had to beg you to come in the house. Like, you better be at home when the street lights come on. Okay, mom, I'll be in. Like, okay, where y'all at? Come in the house. Like, now I feel like this generation now is, these are the kids you have to beg to go outside. Like, go do outside. Like, it's like, and I know we're living in a different time when it comes to like, not, I don't say violence and things like that, but like it is a little bit different compared to what it was then. Like, as far as that, but like, I never wanted to be in the house. That's to find games to do outside, like porch tag, where like you run around the whole neighborhood and you got to get to somebody's porch, or like, it's porch just
tag, that sounds
I'm saying, so we used to find stuff to do, and then after that, it was just time to go hoop. And I just feel like that's how a lot of us got better, because we went to hoop every day. I gotta blow my nose. I don't know why. Whenever I put on makeup, it just
booger nose self.
I'm like, God, baby, why does my nose always run when I got makeup on?
It's okay, because what happens is it wants you to have to wipe the makeup off your nose.
Yes, I'm like, golly.
So knowing that you have this great foundation of just automatically just latching on to basketball, you had an undefeated basketball season, 29-0 on the Wheaties box. Okay, I've seen the box. They showed us that box many times as they probably could at North High.
Yeah.
What some of the adversity now, knowing that you already know Minnesota's a predominantly white state, right? And black girls on TV, nationally ranked. What was some of the adversity that you faced in that season, and then accomplishing what you did in that season, and then getting a state championship?
Yeah. So I want to actually rewind even a year prior to that. My junior year, we actually made it to state as well. We went into the state tournament. I think we finished that season 26-2. Had actually went into that tournament only with one loss on the season. Just knowing our team, our team hadn't been to state in 17 years before that. So they went in 79 and 80. I think, and I've been doing some research because I'm looking to do our Last Dance, a type of documentary called The Lost Dynasty, the Lady Polars. Just been doing some research, and they actually took third one of those seasons from what I've been researching. So looking at that point of like, we hadn't been in 17 years. Just to make it, that was our goal. Like, we just want to make it to state, but we never had the mentality to actually win that season. So making it all the way to the state championship game, dealing with some adversity, the night before the game, just in the facts of like, our team wasn't all at one point. We knew that next year we were going to make a statement, and we had to do what we had to do. I think some of the adversities that we kind of dealt with was the image that they had of us as African American young women. When it came to the media, most people assume that like we were kind of ghetto Black girls. And I'll give you a story from the year before. Well, actually, no, the season that we actually went, they used to do like a state tournament banquet dinner the night before all of the games. So you go and all the teams come to the Radisson on the actual U of M campus, and they did honor all the teams in the state tournament. That season, they had put us right in the middle of the banquet. So here's us, and then all the teams were like in a row.
Yeah.
We actually had a situation where our boys, with Khalid El-Amin and Jabbar Washington, Ozzie Lockhart, they were actually in the region championship game that night of the banquet at Williams Arena. So of course we're like, we want to support our guys, not thinking it would be looked at as something that was negative, but they introduced us first. So we got up on the stage, we all got to introduce ourselves. Coach Johnson said her thing, and then she was like, okay, now we're going to go watch our boys play to try to make it to state. And we leave the banquet. And the banquet's not over. We didn't know that was going to make us look bad or make us look ghetto, because all we thought we were doing was supporting our boy.
Yeah.
Because it was a school thing. That kind of, was some adversity that we dealt with because of how we were portrayed during that situation or during that incident. But that was one thing. And then just the way the media kind of portrayed us as like, okay, there was no discipline, or there was no like nothing in our program. And then all of a sudden there was discipline put in. A lot of us were double parent homes. Like if you look at the roster that won that championship, pretty much a lot of the girls on the team had mom and dad at home. Like I had mom, another young lady Mari Horton had mom, but we had Abby Reed with mom and dad. We had Savannah Martin with mom and dad, Jill Calvick with mom and dad. Like there were Felicia Bell with mom and dad. Like if you think about just the way they kind of portrayed us, and there's actually an interview that was done after the championship game with me and Coach Johnson, or Faith Johnson Patterson, afterwards, that the interviewer said, when you got here 3 years ago, Tamara Moore would be in the stands talking to her friends during timeouts, and that's never been true. I would never disrespect the game like that, but that was the portrayal that they finally kind of gave us the respect that we deserved after winning the championship. But outside of all of that, going 29-0, averaging 80 points a game, our opponents averaging 30 points a game. It was an amazing run. I mean, it's a 14th in the country, and I don't care what people had to say. It was amazing to be able to say I'm a state champion.
Listen, it was the best team ever, in my opinion. I'm sorry, I know there's probably teams before and whatever, but I know when I was in high school, the next team to do what y'all did, but it wasn't to the same level, was St. Paul Central, which shout out to Angel Robinson. I interview her coming up soon, but that was the team to do it. And they went 32-0, and they were talking about how are they the best team ever. And I was like, wait a second, hold on.
Yeah.
There was a team that was averaging 80 points. I need for y'all to understand where this from. And all them kids were kids that were local that started at that school. They didn't build that team how they did. No shade. But that was I remember when social media wasn't as big, but every time someone asked me, I'm like, y'all got to understand, there's a team that I grew up watching and living at, and it was y'all. Like you and Mari was it for me. Like every time I'm like, I can't wait to meet them. And then y'all used to come to practice, and get on my tail. And I'm like, she didn't leave. I didn't ask for this. I said I wanted to meet her, not be in trouble every time she sees me. God damn, T, leave me alone. But nah, she was hard on me, y'all. And I was in 8th grade when she first met me.
Okay, what I had to do, you deserve to play D1 ball. Proud of you for going to Providence. I think a lot of people don't realize, like, I think I always get nervous when it comes to, like, the debates of, like, who's the best player ever? Who's the best team ever? Because, like, for me, how I think about it, I never got to play against St. Paul Central's 32-0 team. They never got to play against the 1998 Lady Polars. I never got to play against the amazing Taylor Hill or, you know, the Paige Beckers and all those players. So the debates are always hard because it's generational. Like, I always tell people all the time, like, as long as my name is mentioned, man, that's an honor in itself. And I'm cool with that. Like, I did what I can do. And I was able to create the path that I was able to create. And just being able to be a motivation to somebody that came behind me, that's what I care about. So, like, I always say the hard part is, like, yes, Central went 32-0, but we didn't play 32 games. You know, you got to play more games the farther along in the farther years. We got asked to play. We were told and asked to go to New York to play against Sue Bird's Christ the King team. And because they were ranked, we were ranked, but we weren't allowed to go because of the distance that the State High School League allows you to go. So we only got to go to Wisconsin. The years after I graduated, they actually got to finally go to Chicago. Like, everybody benefits more and more off the generations before. So
it's like the evolution of a cell phone. Without that first box cell phone with the antenna and you had a box with it, you would never be able to get this. You feel me?
Listen, Shorty, that phone was, what you say?
Okay, seriously. And so, since you're talking about, like, being able to set the trend, T, you were the first Black Miss Basketball in the state of Minnesota. I don't think people understand. And that's happening in the 90s. We're not talking about in the 70s and the 80s. It took all the way into your senior year to start Miss Basketball Black girls being recognized. And now after you see it every other, right? You know, Taylor Hill, Angel Robinson, Mari Horton. But it's like, you set that trend. What does that mean to be that first person, that first Black girl to say, you know what, I'm gonna change what women's basketball looks like here?
Okay, so let me even rewind a little bit more. I want to pay homage to a few people. So so just to set the stage, there was a lady before me that was the first ever, but they used to do it based off of class. Like, so she won. So they used to do class A and class 2A. So there was a African American woman. I can't think of her name right now. I'll help you research it. But she won the 2A Miss Basketball when they had the double award. I was the first outright Black Miss Basketball when they just made it one athlete. The state tournament, the State High School League had been having girls basketball for 22 years, up until my senior year. So that was 1998 when that happened, when it was a solo award where I was the first. But there should have been one before me. Her name was Tracy Henderson.
Oh yeah,
Tracy,
Bad Mama Gemma.
Bad Mama Gemma. She played at Minneapolis Henry. She should have won, but once again, that adversity of what they portrayed her as, like, she had a bad attitude. She got this. Her skills were worthy of that award. So knowing kind of the dynamic of what kind of held them back from giving it to her, I used to go to Coach Johnson and say, like, you really think I have a chance to win? Because I don't want anything to be said that would take it from me. I have my thought processes about, and this is me being super real and super candid about what I feel about the winning of the award. I'm super honored to be the first African-American woman to do that. But I will pay homage to my high school AAU teammate, Jessie Stomsky, who I feel like if her adversities wouldn't have kept her off the court at the end of her season, I feel like it would have been a tie. Like, I feel like it would have, but I wouldn't have cared. Like, I don't care, tie, I'm still in there. But, like, to know it was just me, and just to know, like, that I was the first, it was an amazing opportunity for me. And to now see that there's been 7 or 8 since me, it's been an honor to, like, be able to see that. And it comes back to what I said before, when it comes to, like, how people portray everything. It's like, okay, thank you, I appreciate it. Then it was Mari Horton. And then it should have been Maya Johnson. I don't know why she didn't win, but she should have won. I felt like that should have been another one another person who won because she was an amazing athlete. She went and she continued and helped, Tyree Bronson and, Daria Frazier's to continue the legacy and the dynasty that was being built at North. And then you had, who else won? Let me name some more people. Angel Robinson. You had, hold on real quick. My niece is calling me. It might take my camera down. I'll call her back. She got her new little iPhone. She's excited. But no, so you have Angel Robinson. You have Shannon Bolden, I think is another one that won. Did Kasheen Alexander win?
Nope. I think that year, did she win? I know she finished in top 5.
Okay. Taylor Hill. We can look at and I try to keep up with a lot of Nia Holly was another one.
Holly, shout out to Nia Holly. That's my we assistant coaches together.
Yep. Nia Holly won. I think didn't Nia Holly won as well as Nia Coffey, I think, won.
Nia Coffey won, yep.
I try to keep up with a lot of that stuff because like I'm all about basketball's in me. So I want to say I appreciate the honor, but I'm glad that it opened the door for more girls to be able to accept that honor. And I hope that one day my niece London Harris can call herself a Miss Basketball in 2025. Golly.
Yeah, 2025. Listen, we're gonna have to do a rock, paper, scissors shoot. I got a 2025 in my house. Rock, paper, scissors.
I know. We're gonna have to as long as they up there together, they can tie it up.
But the crazy thing is, I want to say thank you for, like you just setting the standard. I don't think you understood when you picked up a basketball what that would do for little Black girls. But I remember watching you as a kid. And I didn't even know what basketball was. And so like that alone automatically just solidifies your name in greatness just because you set the standard of what excellence is supposed to look like. And I love it. I appreciate you. I love that you're my big sister and I got a personal relationship. People outside may know of you. I know you. And it's a little bit different. And so it makes
I think a lot of people like, and that's the other thing. They'll be like, I'm cool with T. I know her. That's my cousin. I'll be like, I don't know you, but I never want people to feel like I will ever be disrespectful to like, if somebody that I don't know comes up to me and says, what up, T? Remember me? Yep, I sure do. How your family doing? Like, I just feel like if people feel like they are connected to my story or to me, I'm just honored to be able to even, and it's hard when people say, man, T Moore's a legend. Like, I really believe that. And I want people to understand, like, I'm still a legend that doesn't know that. Like, I try to let people be the judge of that, so it's appreciative. And I'm glad that you even asked me to do this because a lot of times, a lot of stuff gets swept under the rug or this, that, and the third. And I think this is an amazing platform, especially Coming into, March Madness. And I'm excited for when this comes out.
I am too. And so, all right. So boom. Now we get to you becoming for one, you set the standard to hear about all the great names that came into North High and all of that. And you decided, I know the backstory of why you chose Wisconsin. We talked about this together.
Yeah.
What was it like just being recruited as a high level? Like you had some of the greatest coaches of all time coming to North Minneapolis. Okay. Yo, I don't know everybody here that watches it. North Minneapolis is the hood. Okay. You got some of the greatest coaches ever stepping into North High, like high gym. Like, what was that like?
So let me just say this. It was a process that started kind of in a weird way. I used to my mom used to drive everywhere. Obviously, we didn't have the money to fly like everybody else. And, she would literally take her green Sebring and take me everywhere. Basketball camps. She used to take me to different, just different events. AAU, we used to always drive. And I used to at the time hate it because I'm like, man, why can't we fly? Like, we ain't got the money. We ain't got that bread to fly. So I think the recruiting process started off super slow at first. To be honest, let me just say this. I'm in the generation where college basketball was really kind of getting more popular. And at the time, I didn't even know I could go to college for basketball. And people say, yes, you did. No, I really didn't. Like, I didn't even know they had high school basketball up until 8th grade when my dad at the time, still my dad, but like at the time was like, let's go watch North boys and Washburn boys, 1994, go and watch their game. Now, this is the season that Washburn boys won the championship. So, and I'm saying a little bit of a backstory because, like I said, I didn't know that there was high school basketball, let alone knowing that there was college basketball.
Right.
So by the time I got to sophomore year, like there was really nothing popping yet. Until I decided, and this is a story that Faith Johnson's probably going to hear for the first time on here. And she doesn't know that this is the case. But there were, I was a student aide in the North office, like when you know how you work in the office and they had you doing little tasks. So I was aide for the secretary, and she told me, T, go put all of the mail for each sports team in their mailbox. And I said, okay, that's cool. I can do that. So I took all the mail, I put all the soccer with the soccer, I put all the volleyball with the volleyball, put all the boys' mail that goes in the boys' mailbox. So I get to the girls' basketball and I see this brochure for a University of Tennessee basketball camp. There's a brochure in there that I'm supposed to put in. So what I did was I photocopied the brochure and I took it home to my mom. And I said, Mom, please let me go to the Tennessee basketball camp. Please. And I wrapped the little thing back. I wrapped the little brochure back up. I put it in the mailbox. And my mom signed me up. Me and Mari Horton went for the first camp. We went to the University of Tennessee Pat Summitt basketball camp, right? We didn't know which camp to pick, so we picked the development camp. This is K through 12, 5th graders, 6th graders. Now, mind you, we 9th and 10th grade going into 10th and 11th grade. So we get there. I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, okay, like, but I'm dominating. I'm balling. Mari's balling. Come to find out, the lady that coached me, I can't remember the lady's name, but the lady that coached me, without me knowing, went to Pat Summitt and said, I don't know if you've ever heard of this kid, but you need to come watch Tamara Moore in our next scrimmage. Because, you know, they do scrimmages at camp, right? She didn't tell me Pat Summitt was coming, though. I play in the game. I'm balling. I feel like I'm killing. I look over, Pat Summitt standing in the doorway. I'm like, Pat Summitt's watching me. Like, oh, my God. So then after that, guess what she does after that?
What?
She tells Shamiqua Holtzclaw to come up to me and ask me if I want to play 5-on-5 with the team later that night. I said, what team? But my team, right? My little team in the camp? Oh, yeah, I want to play. No, do I want to play with the Lady Vols basketball team? I said, heck yeah. So she said, after all the kids go back to their room, after they go back in their dorm room, I'm going to have somebody come get you from your dorm. I'm all hyped. I'm nervous. She sends Passion Thompson to come and get me. I go and I play with the team later that night after all the campers are asleep. I go and I play with the Tennessee Lady Vols, who have now won 2 national championships already in a row, going for the 3rd one going into my year, right? Pat Summitt comes to me and says, Tamara, you have one rule. I said, what's that? As long as Shamiqua Holtzclaw's team winning, you can't leave the floor. You have to guard her. I said, what? She said, as long as Shamiqua's team is winning, you have to stay on and guard her. I said, okay, she didn't win. She didn't lose one game. I didn't get to get off the court, but I didn't care. She was killing me. I got one block. I was in heaven. But that was the start of everything. Once Pat Summitt started recruiting me, I started going AAU. I played for North Tartan program. All of a sudden, everybody started recruiting me because Pat Summitt started recruiting me first. Purdue's and the Connecticut's and the Rutgers, and they started coming to all my games, and I started really, doing well. And then that's when they started coming to the hood, to Minneapolis. I was the first athlete that Pat Summitt came to Minnesota to actually recruit. And the backstory of that is, like, obviously with the Wisconsin, everybody knew Tennessee was my dream school. But I also tell people Wisconsin made my dreams come true. A lot of people don't know that. Like, to be honest, if I had to go back, I probably wouldn't change anything, but I would have changed passing my ACT way earlier than I did. I took it 4 times. I was struggling. Wisconsin honored me with the chance to come and be a Prop 48. And then I ended up passing my test a week after I signed with Wisconsin. Everybody's like, well, if you would have waited, you could have went. I mean, we could have said woulda, coulda, shoulda. But at the end of the day, Wisconsin, I have some records still there. I won a championship while I was there. I'm in the Hall of Fame at Wisconsin. So for me, it was meant to be that I was at Wisconsin. But I had to tell the Tennessee story because a lot of people don't know that's where the start of my major recruitment, and then me starting to elevate to being ranked, and I got 15th in the country overall. And then for my position at small forward, I was the #1 small forward in the country. So it was just an honor. And I'm in a class with Sue Bird and Swin Cash and, a lot of different big name people that are doing big things right now. So
speaking of, by the way, shout out to Wisconsin, inducting you in the Hall of Fame. Phenomenal.
Yes.
What was it like? For one, you played in the WNBA, 7 years?
6 seasons.
6 seasons. Then you played overseas, which people don't understand. Overseas is like a whole different life.
Yes.
What was it like playing professionally and being able to be paid to do something you love?
I think everybody wants to make it to the WNBA, and that's for most, it's the hardest feat because it's not a lot of roster spots. It's getting a lot harder to make it. I felt like if I could be productive at Wisconsin, and I didn't set out to be a Hall of Famer, and I want people to understand, I didn't set out to be any of this. Like, I really just wanted to be successful at something. And basketball just became something that became easier and easier. So to know, like, the journey, because I started off at, and the reason why I say this is, and I always had to go backwards because there's always a back to a four, but I started off at a private school. Like, I was 7th to 8th grade, played private school at St. Bridget's. And I used to always think to myself, okay, I'm doing well. I'm dominating. I'm averaging, I think, 27 points as an 8th grader. But when I get to high school, they're going to stop me. High school different. Like, they're going to be able to slow me down.
Just like, I get
it's
it.
Like humbleness of like, you ain't going to be doing this when you get to high school. But then I continue to do it in high school. So now I'm like, okay, I'm very successful. I'm a big name. I'm doing some great things. I'm pushing and doing a lot of stuff that's seen as like great. But when I get to college, they gonna stop me in college. Like, you ain't gonna be able to do what you're doing in high school, see, but when you get to college. But then I started to do well in college. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing well. Like, I'm leading my team in assists every year. I'm leading my team in steals every year. I'm averaging double figures every year. You might just have a chance, T, to make it to the WNBA. Now, mind you, WNBA started my junior year of high school in 97 with the first team. And then 98 is when the Lynx came into play, right? So we got to go to those games and, like, we got to see the team. And I'm like, you're doing well enough to potentially make it to the WNBA. Like, but it stopped being like what they're going to do as far as stop me in the WNBA. But it's like, I don't care if they stop me in the WNBA. I want to be in the WNBA. So to have that opportunity, I went to the WNBA Combine on my birthday weekend. So my 22nd birthday, I spent in Chicago at the WNBA Combine. Like, I don't care. My mom's like, you don't want to do nothing? No, I want to ball out. And my only wish is to kill at this camp for them to have a reason to draft me. And I did well. I started, bringing up my stock. I could have brought it up more, but the Connecticut girls didn't come to the Combine to participate. So I didn't get to compete against, like, the Sue Birds and the Tamika Williams and the Swing Cash, and they had Asia Jones. Those 4 girls were gonna for sure be drafted in the first round. But I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna kill whoever's in front of me. I did well. I got drafted on April 19th, 2022. Like, that's how memorable it is for me. Like, I know the exact day. And to know I went first round to go into the WNBA and be able to get drafted to Miami? Miami wants me? Like, it was a dream come true. But the biggest dream for me was being able to actually be traded back to Minnesota to play for the hometown team, Lynx. Was an amazing experience. But it wasn't as amazing as people think because of a couple things. And like I said, you want the candid. You're getting a lot of the candid stuff because we are going to be doing this documentary that I felt like a couple things kind of hurt me when I came back here. First of all, being at home, it was very stressful. People calling you all hours of the night, wanting tickets, not really getting the rest, that privacy wasn't there. But I didn't care. I was back home. But the other big thing is I felt like me coming back to Minnesota was kind of overshadowed with the fact that the great great Betty Lennox was who I was traded for. Minnesota had grew to love her. She had became a all-star, and Betty Lennox was somebody I actually looked up to and saw was great. I think that kind of put a damper on my return because of how much they loved her. Yeah. And that wasn't nothing I could have changed. But I used to see like little publications and stuff like that to say, you know, it's great Tamara's here, but we want Betty. Or we wish they would have never, you know. So it was kind of hard. It's the same thing with the Gophers. It's the same thing with the Gophers. Like, I want to tell the world, if Gophers would have been a lot more successful coming out of high school, I would have signed with Minnesota. I went on a visit. At the time, they were 3-27 my senior year. So the hard part was, it's not that I didn't give them a chance or want to pursue that because it's the hometown team. It was the fact that they were just, at the time, not where they were after Lindsay Whalen got there. Now, I'm going to say this, shout out to Lindsay. I'm really close with her. Me and her are still really cool to this day. If the ages were flipped, Lindsay's 2 years younger than me. Say she's 2 years older than me, she becomes a junior, and they making the moves that they're making, it would have been no brainer that T Moore would have came to Minnesota to help and grow. But she did something that I was too scared to do, and that was think that I could change that program around. So I didn't go that route. It's not because I didn't believe in being a Gopher, but it made it
probably something that you didn't even believe in yourself to the point that you like, I could be able to change this program.
Yes, and she was willing to try, and she did that. But I also think that plays a role in now how I'm portrayed because I went to Wisconsin. Like, you didn't go to Tennessee or Connecticut. You went over the bridge. Like, you went over the border, T. Like, the rival, like, so I don't feel like I get pushed as much because of that.
I think the thing is you're extremely humble, and I want you to understand that your greatness speaks for itself. And I listen to the conversations. I think you are your toughest critic. And I think a lot of times you probably heard like little people talking and chatting, but not to the severity of what it is that affects your dynasty and the legacy that you've built. Like, you did that was best for T. And you're still doing it. And, you know, so now we're going on to a segue.
Okay.
You are now a men's basketball college coach.
Yes.
What does that feel like to be the first? Now, granted, I know they heard some little articles like somebody else did it. For what my documentation says, you are the first woman to be in that position coaching a college basketball men's team. What does that feel like?
So let me clear up a couple of things. So I'm not the first woman. There was another lady who was a junior college D3 head coach for a men's program and actually won a championship. I'm the first African American woman to do it. And for me, that means everything. Like, I'm cool with that in itself. So, and I'll get you her name. I should have wrote it down, but there was another woman before me. So she was the first woman. But I'm the first African American woman to head coach a men's college team. The opportunity that had presented itself here at Mesabi has been amazing. Like, I think it just kind of sucks that I haven't got to coach yet because of COVID and the things like that. But just the fact that I was able to recruit and sign 15 players to come and play here, and just see their growth, even when they just in the gym by themselves, the things that they're doing. I look forward to the day that I'm actually able to get on the sideline and be their coach. They're excited. They trust me. I think that they've learned that my IQ for the game is high. And it's not the first time that I've been coaching men. I've actually been coaching men since 2016. Well, actually 2015-16, with semi-pro or minor league basketball, with my TC Elite organization. So it was just a segue into that also led to me now owning a minor league basketball league for men. OBA. Yeah. So just this job in itself has been an amazing opportunity. And I want to say, I appreciate Mesabi for I'm also the softball coach here. For those that don't know, I know a little softball as well. We actually get to have a season for softball this year. So we start, our first tournament is March 22nd. And this is something I'm proud of too. Everybody's like, don't make it racial. But for me, I'm African-American. I'm a Black Girl Magic. And on my softball team, I have 6 Black girls on my softball. Okay. So I made them play. Some of them play women's basketball here. I'm like, y'all playing softball. Y'all gonna play softball this year. So we got 6, African-American young women that have took on the challenge to become softball players. Our team is looking good, and I'm excited about that. So that in itself, giving and back to the community that I come from is important to me, and that's why I'm excited about this opportunity at Masabi.
And thank you so much. And so all these greatness is so hard to accomplish.
Yeah.
It's very challenging to be a kid in the way that we grew up,
Mm-hmm.
having to deal with all of that and being as established as you are. What advice would you give to athletes who aspire to be able to play at a high level and then continue to keep being successful long term?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, my biggest advice is be a student of the game. You can't allow yourself to think that it's just about when you're on the court. It's everything you do off the court, whether that be getting in the gym alone, whether that be getting in the gym with a coach, whether that be even watching game film of yourself, watching game film of other people, like studying and being really, really a student of the game. The IQ part of the game is something that can't be taught. It has to be learned. And I think a lot of the youth here think that it's just about that. A lot of times I can use myself and my niece as an example. My niece is an 8th grader playing for the varsity team at De La Salle. And I tell her all the time, study your opponents. You have access to that. The thing is, the access is even, you have no excuse now because the access is so big. You got Huddle, you got YouTube, you got Overtime Sports, you have you have She Hoops Network, you have any and everything you have. First of all, you have internet. You don't have the AOL dial-up where you have to wait for somebody to get off the phone until you hear the boo until you are now logged in. Like we didn't have all of that. Like my generation had to actually get on the road, drive to these places, and now you can just make a quick highlight of yourself. But I tell kids all the time, you have to be a student of the game because the IQ part is what takes people to the next level. Yeah, you might be skilled, but those skills can deteriorate. Like I'm 40 years old now. The biggest thing for me is I can still play at a high level once I get my body back right. But my IQ can be a situation of what I can use now to know what to do. And players don't understand that. So my advice is that study the game, not just your game, study other people's game, study the plays, being involved. But also I think it's just the day-to-day grind of never letting anybody, and this is what I told my niece recently, the last advice I give is don't let anybody take your passion away for the game. Absolutely. I mean, I can speak as somebody that has had that happen to me. At some point, my passion left when I tore my hamstring and kind of lost my dream of playing and continuing to play in the WNBA. If I played all the way from draft to now, I would be in my 17th season. So like for me, I would be in basically the same boat as like a Sue Bird who's still in there. Like I think overall, for me, it's all about if you want something, go get it, but don't let anybody take your passion away for it because it's something that's supposed to be in you. I was one of my college players right there.
Absolutely. And so you guys, this was dope. I hope that y'all took heed to everything that T talked about. I knew a lot of these stories, but I know that a lot of times she's never talked about some of these things publicly. So thank you for giving me.
You are welcome.
But y'all can find her on all her social media, Tamara Moore. Make sure you check out the men's basketball season when they get there. Softball season 2.
Yes.
So always, y'all, peace, love, happiness, and success. And I'll talk to y'all later.